Okay, so in this video, again, we're looking at percentage increase and decrease, but this time, really importantly, we are allowed to use a calculator, okay? And let's get into it. So if you can use a calculator, you can easily find percentage increases and decreases using something called percentage multipliers, right? What does that really mean? Well, let's say I want to find 20% of 100, okay? If I write 20% as a decimal, I can then just go and times that by 100 to get my answer. So 20% as a decimal, well, 20% literally means, right, you've got 20, right, percent means per 100. So 20%, 20 over 100 per 100 is equal to 0.2. So 20% as a decimal is 0.2. And in maths, if you see of something, it means you're timesing by it. So 20% of 100, we can go and do 100 times 0.2, which is 20% as a decimal. Put it in your calculator, 100 times 0.2 is equal to 20, okay? And it is that straightforward, really, okay? So that's to find percentage of a number. If I want to increase this time 100 by 20%, well, this time, okay, I'm not finding percentage of the number, I'm increasing by 20%. Well, to begin with, right, I start off at 100%, right? 100% of a number is just itself, so 100% of 100 is just 100. If I'm increasing by 20%, well, I'm adding on 20%. Okay, so 120 is equal to 120%. And again, right, percent means per 100. So I'm doing literally 120 per 100, which is equal to 1.2. So if I'm increasing by a percentage, effectively, right, I just put this percentage as a decimal, which again is 0.2, and I add it on to 1. Okay, and that's kind of the reasoning behind it. So 20% increase is 120%, which as a decimal is 1.2. So my calculation is just going to be my number, 100, timesing it through by 1.2. I'm increasing, so timesing it through by 1 would just be equal to 100 still, but I've got to add on that 20%, times it through by 1.2 is 120. The final one, what we looked at, finding percentage of a number, increasing now decreasing, is similar to this one above that, the kind of understanding behind it. If I'm decreasing by 20%, well, again, you always begin at 100% of a number. 100% of a number is just the number itself, like 100% of 100 is just 100. If I'm decreasing by 20%, I'd be taking away 20%, which is equal to 80%, which as a decimal is equal to 0.8. Because again, 80% literally means 80 per 100, which is equal to 0.8. I'm not going to show all this working every single time, just at the start to give you the understanding. So to decrease 100 by 20%, right, effectively I'm doing 1 take away 0.2, which is 0.8. So I can go and do my amount, which is 100, and times it through by 0.8, which is equal to 80. Okay, so 20% of 100 is 20. An increase of 100 by 20% is 120, and a decrease of 100 by 20% is equal to 80. Okay, so let's look at a few examples here. So, right, the key thing with this on here is, right, these parts in red here, these red bits, these are called percentage multipliers, okay? And if we understand these, then this video becomes really easy. But then a trickier topic, which is called reverse percentage, which often students find quite tricky, becomes much easier. So it's really important we understand this idea of percentage multipliers. Okay, so let's look at 3 examples here. Right, if you wanted to find 30% of a number, then what I'm asking is, right, what would you multiply by? Well, again, 30% is 30 out of 100, which is just equal to 0.3. I'm just writing 30% as a decimal, and that is it. So 30% of a number, you would times it by 0.3. If you were to increase by 30%, well, it's going to be 1. Okay, add 30% as a decimal, which is 0.3. So 1 and 0.3 is equal to 1.3. So that there is my answer. I would multiply, I would times through, okay, I would times through by 1.3. Okay, circle my first answer there. Last one, if I'm decreasing by 30%, well, this time I would do 1, take away 0.3, which is equal to 0.7. So I would times through by 0.7 if I'm decreasing by 30%. Okay, and again, the reasoning really behind it is if I'm increasing by 30%, well, you begin at 100%, right? You're adding on 30%, which is equal to 130%, percent means per 100, so you're doing 130 divided by 100, which is equal to 1.3. Okay, that's the real understanding behind it. But when we do the questions, right, we don't obviously do all of this. Hopefully that gives you some understanding. Often we tell people stuff without any real meaning. So that's just what's going on behind the scenes. And similarly here, right, if you're decreasing by 30%, you're doing 100%, right, and you're taking away 30%, which is 70%. And again, percent means per 100, so 0.7. Okay, so you can try these three here. So what would you times by to find 7% of a number to increase by 7% and to decrease by 7%? So pause the video and give those ones there a go. Well, the first one, right, 7% as a decimal, percent, so 7 divided by 100, you'd be timesing through by 0.07. Right, 7 divided by 100, because percent means per 100 is equal to 0.07. Right, to increase by 7%, we'd be timesing through by, similarly over here, 1 add 0.07, which is 1.07. Be really careful here. It's definitely not 1.7. Right, 1.7 would be a 70% increase. 1.07 is a 7% increase. Okay, so just be careful with these ones here. That's really important. And your final one, right, if you're decreasing by 7%, again, you'd be doing 1, take away 7%, and 7% again is 0.07, so 1 take away 0.07, which is equal to 0.93. So you'd be timesing through by 0.93 if you're decreasing by 7%. So what you can do here is, right, you can pause the video. I'm not saying you have to go through all of these, but it's a good idea just to get the gist of it. Okay, I'm looking at finding the percentage multipliers, so the percentage multipliers of each of these percentages here. I'll do the first one with us. I've got the answers on the next page that I'll put up straight away. But what I mean by this is, right, to find 40% of a number, you would times through by the decimal of that, which is 0.4. To increase by 40%, well, you would do 1 add 0.4, so you would times through by 1.4. And to decrease by 40%, you would do 1 take away 0.4, so you'd be timesing through by 0.6. Okay, so pause the video. You can give those ones a go if you wish, as many as you like. The ones, the bottom three at the end are a bit trickier, but it's the same idea, really. So pause the video and give those ones there a go. Okay, there are your answers, so you can give those a mark, and then we can move on to looking at percentages, increases and decreases of actual amounts using a calculator. Okay, so now just kind of putting what we've learned into practice, right? If you want to find 22% of this number here, well, we know that 22% as a decimal is going to be 0.22 of your amount. So we're timesing by our number, which is 182. And because we can use a calculator, this is really straightforward. We just type in 0.22 times 182, which is equal to 40.04. So £40 and 4 pence. Okay, and that is our answer on the first one. The second one, right, if I'm increasing £182 by 22%, well, this time, right, I've got my amount, 182, but I'm increasing, so I'm timesing through by 1 plus my percentage as a decimal, which is going to be 0.22, so 1.22. So I'm just using what we've learnt on the previous slides, right, and putting it into practice. So put this into my calculator. So 182 times 1.22 is equal to 222.04. Okay, and that is my answer. Last one, I'm decreasing £182 by 20%. Well, again, my percentage multiplier, going to be a little bit careful with this one because we're decreasing, but it's going to be my amount, which is 182. And I'm timesing through. If I'm decreasing by 22%, it's going to be 1 take away 0.22, so 0.78. Okay, and I put that in my calculator. So 182 times 0.78, which is equal to, I'm looking at money here again, so £141.96. Okay, so you can now try those ones on the right, give those a go. Be a little bit more careful with these ones because you're looking at single digit percentages, but really it's the same idea. Okay, so give those ones there a go. So the first one, 6% of what's £84. Well, 6% as a decimal is not 0.6, that's 60%. It's going to be 0.06 times your amount, which is 84, and just plug it into your calculator. So 0.06 times 84 is equal to, and again, we're looking at money, so £5 and 4 pence. Second one, we're now increasing 84 by 6%. So we've got our amount, which is 84, and we're timesing through by a 6% increase. So 1 plus 0.06, which is 1.06. Okay, and then timesing those through together. So we're going to get £89 and 4 pence. So £89.4 pence. Okay, last but not least, we're decreasing £84 by 6%. So again, we've got our amount, which is 84, and we're timesing through by 1, take away 0.06, which is going to be 0.94. So these bits here are the percentage multipliers, okay, that we've been looking at on the previous slides. So 84 times by 0.94, which is £78 and 96 pence. Okay, if you got those correct, then that's really good, because right, understanding percentage multipliers, so these bits here is really, really important, okay, particularly in later videos. So just to finish off with, you can try formal here if you wish to. The ones below here are a bit trickier because you've got decimal percentages, but it's the same idea going on again. Okay, let's go through these, and you can fast forward to the end to look at the answers. The first one, right, we want to increase 320 by 60%. So we've got our amount, which is 320. I'm increasing by 60%, so I'm timesing through by 1 plus 60% as a decimal, which is 0.6, so 1.6. Okay, so put that in my calculator. So 320 times 1.6 is equal to 512, and my unit I'm looking at here is grams. So there we go. That is my first answer. Second one, I want to decrease 94 millilitres by 8%. Well, my amount is 94. I want to times through by a decrease of 8%. So I'm going to be doing 1, take away 8% as a decimal, which is 0.08, which is going to give me 0.92. So 0.92. And I put that in my calculator. I'm going to get whatever I get, 86.48. And we're looking at millilitres here. So 86.48 millilitres. Okay, and that there is my answer. Next one, I want to increase 48 gigabytes by 2.5%. Well, if this one's confusing you, right, maybe, if you wrote it down, if you got 48 and you times through, if you began by saying, well, 1.25, well, that's definitely not right, because that's a 25% increase. So I've got to kind of add on another 0 there. So 1.025 is my percentage multiplier in this one, right? But if you want to really work through it and understand it again, well, 2.5% as a decimal is going to be 2.5 per 100, so dividing through by 100, which is equal to 0.025, so 0.025, and you're adding 1 onto that because you're increasing, right, and that gives you that 1.025. So that's what's really going on behind the scenes there. So we're doing 48 times 1.025, which is equal to 49.2, which kind of makes sense, right? 48 gigabytes, it's a very small percentage increase. 49.2, it just sounds, roughly correct. And it's always good to think about your answers. And that is our answer. Good. Last but not least, I'm decreasing 9 by 0.8%. Again, right, if this is going to confuse you a little bit, well then, I'd probably write down that 0.8% as a decimal. Percent, again, means dividing through by 100. So 0.08 divided by 100 is going to be 0.008, right? Because I'm decreasing, if we start off at 1 and we're decreasing, we've got to take away that 0.008. So 1 take away 0.008 is going to give us 0.992. So I'm going to go and do my number, which is 9, multiplied through by 0.992. And that is equal to 8.928. 8.928, and there is no unit here, so it's just going to be that as my answer. Okay, and just think about the answer. Does that seem roughly reasonable? Well, it does, yeah, because 9, a very small percentage decrease. I've got a slightly smaller answer, so that looks good to me. Okay, hopefully that was useful. Thank you.